To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping you along the way. Helping you to make it through another day. Yeah. Everything you need to know that you never knew, that you need to know. Lockhart perspective.
Well, hello, and welcome. Here we are again, all golden. Don't know how to fix it. I want to thank each and every one of you all for being with us today. And I'd also like to welcome the viewers from Headlines with a Voice. We are so happy to have you. We generally want to invite you guys over to the Lockhart Perspective anytime we have any guests on. So I hope that you are comfortable and that everyone here makes you feel at home. Today, our guest is none other than Dr. Carmen Johnson. We're going to get into some great information about this wonderful and heroic woman, and I just want to have a very organic conversation with her. I hope you guys can hear me well. Let me turn this up to make sure everybody can hear me. But we're going to have a very natural, organic conversation. I told her that I just wanted to be like two ladies who just met in the grocery store. So I'd like to first of all welcome Dr. Carmen Johnson. We are so privileged to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. We wanted to make you welcome. We wanted to give you a platform in which you can share with Americans, no matter what shade they are, exactly what's going on in our country. And I want to give you autonomy to just make yourself at home, make this your house. And I'm going to just allow you to tell everybody who you are, tell us how we got here, and tell us some of the great work that you're doing.
I am Dr. Carmen Johnson, like you said, and I am also the director of Court Watch Judicial Accountability. And I've sat in over 3,300 bond review hearings in Prince George's County, Maryland. And how I fell into that position is because a few years ago, I was the housing chair for the state conference NAACP. And I was politically hit. And at that time, I was trying to get a moratorium to freeze the illegal foreclosures that was happening in the state of Maryland. Not to mention it was happening all over the United States. And with that said, I made a lot of powerful people of persuasion very, very angry about this narrative that I started in the NAACP in the state of Maryland. And I was also threatened to stop the narrative and the initiative, and I refused. And anyway, I found myself, fighting for my life, being hit with, 24 counts of mortgage, bank, and wire fraud. I had never did mortgages a day in my life except my own personal mortgage. And they really, tried very hardly to assassinate my character. And ultimately, I went to trial. They offered me 3 different pleas. I refused to take the plea. I can tell you that, I was afraid. And that was the first time in my life that I was ever afraid of the white man. I was ever afraid of our government. And but I knew, as a practicing Buddhist of over 20 something years, it didn't make sense for me to lie and say I did something when I did not do it. That part did not make sense to me. I ultimately was found guilty by a jury. They like to say that it was a juror of my peers. I disagree with that. I ended up doing about 3 years and some months at a prison camp, work camp in West Virginia, racist West Virginia. They were very racist there. And that was another thing that I'd never really experienced growing up in Maryland. I never really experienced racism. And it
I
was,
don't mean to stop you, but that's one of the things that I want to mention is that the area in which you were raised or grew up in or had familiarity with was not an area that you had ever experienced anything like this. Would you say that, let me ask this question this way, because I love to play devil's advocate, but not to the point of harm. Would you say that it was necessarily what you were saying and the fact that you happen to be a black woman saying it or trying to blow the whistle? Because if I'm not mistaken, didn't they end up having a whole bunch of stuff that they brought out about those mortgages later? So you weren't even the only one. It just so happens that they didn't want you to speak about it. Is that am I getting it partially right?
well, for one thing, Prince George's County is known, like most people think of Atlanta, Georgia as, the most wealthiest, state, or, in Georgia, or something to that effect. But
Yes.
tend to forget about Prince George's County, Maryland.
Okay.
That county is very, it has a lot of people of color that are very, comfortable in their lives, and
Okay.
and in their education and in their profession and things of that nature.
Okay.
So, and it's also ran by, a lot of people of color as well. So, experiencing, racism and stuff like that is not really something that, you know, we necessarily experienced.
Because everybody there is pretty much used to one another, all up and coming, all financially stable. Everybody has, the house, the two kids, the dog, and all of that. Okay. And so you found yourself smack dab in the middle of this. At first, when it first happened, what was your mindset? Did you think, oh my God, this has to be a mistake? How could they put me involved in this? And what was their justification to adding you to this?
Um, be, before I became the housing chair for the state conference NAACP, I had a for-profit company which taught financial literacy.
Okay.
And we offered services of credit restoration, debt arbitration, financial planning, preparation for bankruptcy, rehabilitation after bankruptcy. We paid off people loans, which was considered as a personal loan. We didn't give them the money, but we went in and we negotiated with the creditors, pennies on the dollar, and we paid those debts off. And some people took advantage of those services. And, once a person left my office, I can't tell you what you can and can't do with your credit. That's not my business. I was licensed by the state of Maryland, registered with the Better Business Bureau, a member of Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So after, being part of that industry, then I later became the housing chair for the state conference NAACP. And I'm making a point without, shedding too much light on it because it goes more in details in my book. However, when my initiative became the illegal foreclosures that was happening in the state of Maryland, because that's exactly what they was. And it was so many people being hit by predatory lending. A lot of these families did not need like prime mortgages. They had scores of 750, 800, 850 back then. They didn't need those special mortgages and tailored mortgages. They didn't need that. They could go straight to a credit union or straight to a bank, but that's not what was being offered to them. And that's one of the things, no matter how wealthy, a person of color is, one of our downfalls is the fact about the financial literacy piece. Is for whatever reason, we do not understand economics. We do not understand financial literacy. I can't figure that out to save my life. Why? Because I grew up in that type of household. But anyway, moving right along, when they politically hit me, they went back through my background just to see, they couldn't find anything on me. So, okay, let's see who she's done business with. So in the meantime, between time, they slid me into a real case with 14 Tanzanian Africans. And they all took a plea saying that they did, whatever it was that they did. I was the only one that didn't take a plea, and they were already convicted or whatever the situation was years prior. But because these political players that wanted me to stop the initiative, and I would not call myself back then a whistleblower. I was very green to the fact that the fraud that was happening to our people was man-made. I didn't understand that back then. I know that now, and I go more in details in my book about that.
So basically, what you were doing is just what you thought was right. It's primarily all you were doing. You were doing what you thought was right, what needed to be said, and possibly not even thinking that there was ever going to be any backlash from saying what's right.
Right.
And so I just want to let you guys know that, you know, this is a very learned woman, all right? Dr. Carmen gives lectures there at to law students at the Harvard University. I'm reading this exceptional bio at the Harvard University School of Law, Berkeley School of Law, and UDC School of Law, Georgetown University, and several others. So this is a woman who literally teaches and who is a professor, who is a PhD. So we're not talking about somebody who doesn't have any information, who's not learned in law. And so when you saw these things, it stood right out to you. This isn't right. We got to say something. So basically, you weren't expecting the backlash that you got. Can you turn your volume up just a bit for me? I see somebody mentioned your volume. They really want to get into what you got to say. Can you turn it up just a scotch? That was their actual word too. I don't know who used the term scotch.
I have it all the way up.
You do? Okay, then maybe it's working. It's working better. I hope you guys can hear it. But listen, I don't want you all to miss a beat. So now, so when all of this came to you, you probably thought to yourself, well, this has to be a mistake. How did you even get the information once it came down the pike? Can you tell us about that moment? And then I also want you to, as much as you feel comfortable, explain to us what the trial was like, if you're able to speak to that, because I do want to look at the level of unprofessionalism, and then I also want to look at how they would treat somebody who's obviously innocent. Most importantly, if you can tell us who was influential in helping you get out of this, and at what point did they do that? You can answer any of those. I'm going to give you carte blanche. I'm going to come back off this camera and give you carte blanche to touch base on any of those at your discretion.
It was a horrible experience because I knew that I was emphatically innocent. And at that point, I did not understand that I was being politically hit. I didn't realize that till after the fact. All I knew is that I was innocent. All I knew is that I didn't do what they was trying to say that I did. And that was, do fraudulent mortgages. I knew I didn't do that. They also went into that I was doing fraudulent trade lines. Well, I was a member of Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, and I was able to report my trade lines for my services, and I was also able to report the loans that I was paying people debts off with on their credit reports. Now, those two head Africans said that they came to my company to get fraudulent trade lines. But my trade lines were not fraudulent. My trade lines that I reported to the credit agency was emphatical. And a lot of the information that was brought out at trial, it was the first time I ever heard of it. So I was really blindsided. And I went through 4 different high-profile attorneys at different points. And they all would say, as I gave them my money one by one, this is ridiculous. We can get you out of this. The first high profile attorney I had, we even went up to the prosecutor's office several times. And they said, well, you broke no statute, codes, or laws. And, but, we're going to hold your money a little longer. We're going to go back through your finances again. We're going to go through this. We're going to go through that. And I'm like, take your time. And I was relieved because I knew that I had not done anything wrong. And not to mention that when I first started going up to the prosecutor's office, they never said anything about properties or mortgages or anything like that. They never said anything like that. but they never went into details what it was that they were looking for either. And also, my case went through like 4 or 5 different prosecutors as well, because they couldn't find anything on me. But what they did do, they started, like I said, going back to people that I did business with. And so it ended up being 2 head realtors, but I did business with realtors all around the United States that was dealing with credit and debt only. Nothing to do with houses, nothing to do with mortgages, nothing to do with any of that sort. And I, work with banks and mortgage companies all around the United States. It was strictly about their credit, their debt, household budgeting, rehabilitation after bankruptcy. It was strictly about that. That was it. And so 90-something% of what came out at trial was the first time I had ever heard of these things. And that was wrong within itself. And I ended up firing each attorney one at a time because, like I said, they would, take my money. And then, 6 months later, they were talking about, well, we need to go ahead and take a plea. The first plea was for 30 years. And, every morning I get up, I brush my teeth, and I think about, if I had taken that plea because I was afraid, I would be still sitting in that prison camp today. The second plea, I don't remember. I had a nervous breakdown after that because I couldn't believe my second attorney, which was a brother, a man of color. And he used to be the state's attorney. And so he said that he contacted the prosecutors and they don't have anything on you and, blah, 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 and we'll be fine. And, next thing I know, he started pressuring me under coercion, stress, and duress to take a plea. And that's when I had a nervous breakdown because I could not believe that our justice system, I now call it injustice system, work or operate the way that it operate. And I never even had the opportunity to even think about the injustice system or the criminal system, because it was never in my mind I didn't have to think about it. It wasn't in my mind to break a law or break a statute or break a code or anything like that. So I never thought about it. So to see it firsthand, it was devastating. It was a travesty, and it still is today.
So tell us a little bit about some of the work that you're doing right now. I read some things and I think it's outstanding, even though you have gone through such tragic ways. I think before I segue to that, I want you to tell me during your time of incarceration, because they incarcerated you. During that time of incarceration, what did you pull and draw your strength on? I know I mentioned this. To me, I think your answer, because I want everybody to hear this, because I mentioned this to you all Friday. I believe that your answer is dynamic. Tell us about a little bit of just a smidge, not necessarily the whole idea, because I don't want you to relive any of that, but just to tell us about some of the things that you experienced and how you overcame it, because you were literally incarcerated for 3.5 years, right? Or 3 years and some months or something.
Yes.
Tell us about that. Tell us what strength you drew from. And then I want to get into talking about a little bit of your book. I don't want you guys to hear all the information about her book right now, because what I do want you to do is, as soon as it's ready, I want you to go to the website that's down below inside of the description, and I want you to get the book. That's what I want. So if you could, I'm going to come back off and give you carte blanche again, girl. Go ahead and tell us all about it.
Well, when it's really weird because my trial supposed to have went into the next week, and it was on a Thursday, and a bailiff, when you go through the metal detector, and when I went through the metal detector, the bailiff, a man of color, he whispered in my ear and he said, "Don't wear that coat tomorrow. Don't wear that don't bring that purse, and don't wear your jewelry." So I looked at him and I was thinking, because I had already had like 2 nervous breakdowns by that time. So I was like, I know maybe I'm being paranoid. He can't mean what I think he means, because my trial go into next week. And I had people come in next week to testify for me. So I just wanted to make a point that he whispered in my ear and he told me that. And anyway, when the next day came, which was Friday, they stopped the trial. and they arrested me immediately. They said I was a terrorist. They said that I was ISIS. And I'm like, what? Where did they get this information? Like, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe that they was calling me this. By the time I got to the prison camp, which it took me like maybe 5 months to get there, because they also attempted to diesel me as well. I didn't remember my name. I didn't remember being a practicing Buddhist of over 20 something years. I didn't remember being a scholar of metaphysics, science of the mind, and mental science. But what I did remember, because I grew up in Pentecostal Christianity, I remembered that. And I remembered my Native American ways that my grandmother, who was Cherokee, taught me. And I remembered those things, but I couldn't remember what my name was, how I got to that camp, why I was at that camp, where in the world I was. For almost a year, it took almost a year for me to get my full memory back. And when almost that 11th or 12th month, that's when I remembered, wait a minute, I'm a Buddhist. Wait a minute, I'm an activist. Wait a minute, I'm here because, blah, 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 blah. So for the first year, it was pulling on the Christianity piece, growing up in that, and also my Native American side as well, my ancestors.
So it's something about the blood, ain't it?
Yeah.
Something about that blood that it'll get you through it. That's what I thought was riveting when you first shared that, because that question came up while we were chatting, and to me, that took me just to the moon and back. And I think it's because our minds are an amazing computer, an amazing machine, our spirit and our soul, that even though man can tamper with this body, they can say a lot of things about us, they can do a lot of things to us, but they cannot touch the blood. And that, to me, as a minister and as a woman who loves our Father, that took me, like I said, to the moon and back. You know what? You are a courageous woman. You're a very courageous woman. And I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, not as a woman of color, but as a Native American sister like you, being, Cherokee and Creek, and then my great-grandmama having that nice Choctaw down there from the Belzoni seat in Mississippi, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your courage. I want to thank you for all of the training and the depositing that you're doing in our young women. I want you to talk about that, because the things that you have gone through, I will be very honest, I don't know if I could have made it through. I don't know if I could have come out, as gorgeous as you are right now, as eloquent as you are right now. Who knows if any of us could have survived the things that you have survived. I just want to tell you that right now. That gentleman did know something. You see, but do you see how the system is? They all talk and they all munch. He knew, because they was talking. Maybe he heard when he walked someplace and the Father let him hear it and give you that warning. You know what I'm saying? But look how he carried you all the way through. Look how the Father carried you all the way through. Now, before we go over to this next point, how did we get to John Lewis and others helping to get you out? How did we arrive there?
Well, actually, it wasn't John Lewis.
Who was it?
It was, I can say one name. The other two are mentioned in my book.
Okay.
The Honorable late Congressman Elijah Cummings.
That's who it was. That's who I mixed up. Thank you.
He also was instrumental, along with a senator who's still sitting, in her seat. They were instrumental in the things that I was filing on that prison camp. They had the place raided by the feds. So the feds raided the feds. Wow. And when you go to my website, you'll see letters from women, the letters that I had smuggled out of there the day that I left, the makeshift petition that we made, and the fact that we was getting little medical care and no mental health treatment, and the fraud and the access that was going on. And for me personally, I was physically abused. There was women there that was being sexually abused. But for me, I was jumped on by, about 20 white guards. I was strangled and drug on the floor until I passed out. And I want to bring up this one piece right here about that particular situation. I remember as I was fading in and out when they were strangling me on the floor, and I could hear women saying, because they had ordered everybody to their cubes. So we didn't have cells. We had like little cubes because we were at this camp. It was like a camp. And so they ordered all the women to their cubes while they strangled me and abused and battered me. And so I heard women as I was fading in and out saying, "We're not going anywhere. We see what you're doing to her. We're not moving. We're not going anywhere." So anyway, the next day, I realized that it was 4 Caucasian women. It wasn't women that looked like me that stood up for me. And that's the sad part about it, because I was fighting for all of us on that compound. But I don't like the word, but subjectively, I don't understand why we as women of color, why it took Caucasian women to stand for me and say, we're not moving.
Let me stop you there, because I just want to be so honest with you. I have support from several different ethnicities. And I have support from our sisters. But I'm going to tell you something. I got some support from some sisters who don't look like us. And they will get right in there with the trenches. If we all got to throw bows and get out of somewhere, I got me a Sandy Aaron. I got me a Rachel Van Zeel. I got me numerous people. I got a Mama Bear, Papa Bear, several of our folks that are here right now. I got C-Mac. C-Mac look like me though, I believe. But I got a whole lot of folks that'll do that. But it does shock you when you see people who don't look like you helping. But let me tell you why I believe it does. I believe it shocks us because of the narrative and the lies that are being told right now by media and by other outlets that want us to have this divide. Because if you got a divide, you'll believe that there's only you in this little bitty vacuum that can help you. Only people who look like you. And to be honest with you, I've only been treated poorly when I go into environments that I need help with as it relates to any governmental things that I'm dealing with or stuff like that. I've had people who don't look like me step up and say, hey, wait a minute. No, she's right. Look at X, look at Y, look at Z. So you're saying that while you were there, the voices that you heard was that handful of women who were saying, nope, we're not going. But the other people probably just ran. But they were like, no, we see you. And they knew not to mess with them. But they just went ahead and said, no, we see you. So how did that make you feel once all of that was done? I mean, it just shocked you, right?
I was very devastated. However, it is a fact. You know what I'm saying? And this is what, I don't know why women of color do this to one another. I was disappointed, but I was also glad that these Caucasian sisters were able to stand up. And after that, we also built a coalition. And because at some point my mail wasn't being sent out. So I was able to smuggle mail out through these Caucasian women to get to my sisters, in order for my sisters to get it to everybody in Congress and everybody in the federal Senate that this is what was going on, that their sister was being abused, me, along with all the other women there was being physically abused, sexually abused, no mental health, lack of medical care, forced into GED classes and all kinds of crazy stuff. It was just all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Little food to eat. For me, I was thrown in there. It was called a suicide watch, but I was thrown in, solitary confinement / suicide watch several times as an abusive measure or retaliation measure. But those women, those Caucasian women, and I love my sisters that look like me, let's be clear. However, those Caucasian women came to the rescue to make sure that word got to my sisters in order for my real blood sisters to send to Congress, to everybody in Congress and everybody in the Senate, what was going on at this top-notch federal prison camp. And that's why the feds had the feds raided.
Wow, I'm glad you wrote a book. I hope the movie is coming. We haven't even got the book in our hands yet, but I hope the movie is coming. And I say that because this is really the stuff that I believe they write a lot of these movies from, to be honest with you. I believe there's a lot of stories that we don't even know about from people, and that they, for whatever reason, come out later and you see it as a movie, but you would never imagine that it was somebody's life. But it was. We're talking today specifically to Dr. Carmen Johnson. She is a very heroic woman who stood up in the time when she thought everything was normal by speaking out about things that she had been trained to speak against and had been licensed to speak against. And all of a sudden she finds herself placed in the middle of something, possibly because somebody didn't like her telling the truth. And how many of us have had opportunities where telling the truth has led us into some situations? I'm so proud to have her here today. And I think now what I'd like for you to do is, again, I want to know about the work you're doing. I want to know about your 501c3. And I want you to tell us, I did read a small blurb where one of the ladies made a comment, that's my teacher. I want you to give us just what you want people to know. And I'm going to let you take it from here. Just tell us what you want folks to know and what it is that you're doing now to prevent people from going through this again.
Well, I just want to piggyback off of what Miss Odell has there. We, me as a practicing Buddhist of 20-something years and, a scholar of metaphysics, we all are one. And I just wanted to make a point about just people that's my shade. And, it would have been nice if it was two that look like me and two that look like you. That would have made my day, but that wasn't the case. And I can only speak the facts. But you are right. We all are one. I work for another nonprofit called Life After Release. And so I'm the director of Court Watch Judicial Accountability. And in Prince George's County, I hold 19 judges accountable to the things that they do to the community. And that's dealing with Maryland Rule 4-216, which is denying them bonds and mistreating them in court and things of that nature. So that's one hat that I wear. My sister, who's 9 years younger than me, who was instrumental in helping me get out of that prison camp sooner than later, she's the executive director. She sort of forced me into being the founder of this nonprofit, helping ourselves to transform, which is a 501c3, because of the experience that I went through. And the biggest thing now is people don't talk about what people like me, and I have to say like me now, because at the end of the day, even though I've been to the Supreme Court twice fighting for my innocence and fighting for my name, I still wear the letter of the scarlet letter F on my forehead and on my back as felon. And no one cares that I'm innocent. They just care, hey, she's been to a prison camp. They don't even care if it was a camp. She's been to prison, so she got to be guilty, and we don't care, and especially if it's other federal agencies. So when I came home, here it is, I'm almost 55 years old, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to apply for SSDI. I went through mental health abuse. I went through, physical abuse, and I'm going to apply for my SSDI. I had to literally fight for that in order to just be turned down. Not to mention having to deal with IRS, another federal agency, not to mention not being able to get a housing voucher, another federal agency. So people do not understand what people that come home have to deal with. And, as far as the universe is concerned, as far as our creator is concerned, it's constantly reminding me, Carmen, you have to see this thing all the way through in order to be an expert in this injustice system, in this prison system, in this reentry system. And, there's a lot of men that come home that's been in prison jails, camps, and cages for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They owe 40 and 50,000 in child support. They can't get their driver's license. It's so much stuff that we have to deal with that no one's addressing. You see a bunch of reentry programs and they talk about, we'll help you get your ID. And for me, I'm like, well, I got my driver's license. Well, we'll help you get your birth certificate. Well, for me, I got my birth certificate. Well, for me, we'll help you write your resume. Well, here's my resume right here. Oh, shoot, she's overqualified. So it was just a disaster. But the real issues that I needed help with, they couldn't help me with. Not to mention, I wasn't given the benevolence to handle my business affairs, my personal affairs. So I came home with IRS issues because my creditors wrote the debts off as income. And of course, nobody could help me. And the mental health piece of it, no one talks about that. I don't care if you spent one day in a prison, jail, camp, or cage. It's a whole different mindset when you are innocent. It will blow your mind. And
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
And even if you're not innocent, even if you did do something that you wasn't supposed to do, even if you did do something, no one deserves to be treated like a dog or animal. No one deserves that. And, you know, I was at a camp. So I hear the stories. I talk to men and women. I mentor them. And I hear how they saw other men getting raped, and they saw this one get stabbed, and, you know, all kinds of stuff. And then they expect us to come home and be normal. That's crazy. So in my nonprofit that I founded with my sister, my baby sister, who helped get me out of that prison camp sooner than later, we focus on the re-entry. And our services that we offer are paramount because one shoe does not fit all. And a lot of the services that we offer at Helping Ourselves to Transform, I have not even listed. And the reason why I have not listed them there, because I know how other people like to steal. So I have not listed all of those there. Subjectively, one of our goals is to focus on those 9 Crime Act bills, those 9 Crime Act bills that can continue a wave of mass incarceration on our people. And everybody's so happy about the First Step Act and the Second Chance Act. But the quicker they let people out, the faster they let people in. But nobody's addressing that actual wound that's still bleeding. And that's those 9 Crime Act bills. And I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I am a practicing Buddhist. I am a servant of the universe. And our president of our United States co-wrote and sponsored 6 of those Crime Act bills. And that has to be addressed because our people are steady being imprisoned and mistreated. Not to mention, we got the Prison Litigation Reform Act. Under that, President Clinton created that act or signed off on that act, which ties the hands of men and women that are behind the wall, that are being abused, that are being retaliated against, and they can't get remedy. You know, just so happened, you know, once I remembered who I was, hey, you know, I know my way around politics, and I had to guide my 2 little sisters on what they needed to do in order to get the word to Congress and to the Senate that I was being abused, that all the other women was being abused. There was women that was dying around me and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Something has to be done, and nobody's not doing enough. You hear little stuff here and there, but Helping Ourselves to Transform, for me, is a reason why I went on that sabbatical, is a reason why I saw how crooked these attorneys are, is a reason why I saw how crooked the judge was in my case, is a reason why I saw how crooked the prosecutors were, is a reason why I saw it was people in my past that did things to me that I wasn't even aware of. But you're going to hold me responsible for that? No, that's not fair.
I don't know how you guys are doing with this, but this is an exceptional account of one woman's life. It is her life that we're talking about. And again, I don't know how you did it. I just am ecstatic that you are here with us today to share exactly what you went through and some of the good things that you are going to do and have done right now within all communities. I think that it's an unbelievable thing that you went through what you did, but you came out not bitter, but with information that would help you see a level of, I can't say illegal, but it is, but just corruption on so many different levels. I think that's what I really want to drive home, is that by you experiencing this, do you feel this way? That by going through these things, you were able to see a bevy of things that needed to be addressed? And have you, in your opinion, begun to address a lot of the things that you saw towards changing them?
Absolutely. That's the purpose of the reason why I wear one hat, the director of court watch judicial accountability. And I give lectures on that also. And I also educate the community on why they need to be, court watchers. Injustices happen in an empty courtroom. You have to be in part of the community in order for you to know that statute, laws, codes, and rules and all of that kind of stuff are working. You have to go and check out and make sure they are working. Because what happened to me, it happened in an empty courtroom.
Wow.
Until sentencing, until my sisters drove up in the snow. My sisters, my mom, my dad, and all of them drove up in the snow at sentencing, because they arrested me immediately. 4.5 months later was sentencing. The courtroom was packed and jammed. So that judge, my judge, who went to Morehouse, who I was his second case or something to that effect, he couldn't give me those 10 years. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't give me what they wanted him to give me, because the courtroom was packed and jammed. People were standing all in the hallways, is what I hear. You know what I mean? So injustice happened in an empty courtroom. And
I'm sorry. I just have to say something. I am so tired of people who favor us, because I ain't gonna say they look like us. I'm so disgusted. And I know a lot of people who are watching say, oh, it's not about this, it's not, but no, I'm gonna tell you right now, it is. Because for so many years, I have seen people who look like us treat us worse. From everything to an encounter in a grocery store, at a line with somebody, to these type of things. Even calling to talk about, discussing a bill or something like that. When you know it's us, they have I don't know why, but they are the rudest. They are the most cruel. They are the most hate-centered. And I don't understand where that comes from. Here I am, probably a lot like you and a lot of others that are listening. If I see anybody in need, I'm helping you. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter. I mean, and so it's unfathomable to me to know that this judge looked like, you said Morehouse, and I already knew what that meant on so many different levels, but it does. It is very curious to me why, and I don't understand it. It makes me very angry, and just to hear that, you're a judge, you went to Morehouse, you look like the woman, you don't know how to stand up for what's right or wrong, because it's evident that what was done to you was wrong. So nobody want to stand up. This is the reason why right now it is so very difficult to trust or believe anything that comes out of anybody's mouth that looks like us, that's toting or tap dancing to the narratives that are being displayed right now in our country. That's the reason why. That is the reason why I don't deal with it at all, because you don't want to tell the truth, and you would rather hold on to lies and smile with a face that favors mine, when behind you it's the devil's horns. Go ahead, boy.
Yeah, not to mention the NAACP did not support me when my parents, and my mom just died in December, but when my parents kept calling up to the national NAACP, they kept saying they didn't know who I was. Not to mention, I was all over the news trying to get a moratorium to freeze the illegal foreclosures that was happening in the state of Maryland. So that was disheartening within itself. But at the end of the day, I still love my people. I love all people. And I stand by that. And, at this point, some people, are saying, aren't you afraid? You got this book coming out, your name dropping, you're this, you're that, no, I'm not afraid, because what's going to happen is going to happen. But at the end of the day, my story has to be told. And I focus on everyone that touched my book, everyone that read the words that jump off the pages of that book, that they feel a certain frequency and vibration where they have an opportunity to assist with helping this injustice that's keeping slavery and involuntary servitude in Black and brown communities.
Wow. I'm floored. I'm so floored. I'm so happy that we have you here today. We've only got about maybe 5 more minutes of this wonderful interview. Will you please come back when your book comes out? Can I ask you that in advance? Yes. Is that possible that can I be first on the list? Because your story is just, it's heartbreaking. You're here with us, so it doesn't break my heart like that. It's heartbreaking to know that you went through it, but I'm glad that you went through it and got out of it and came back to clear things up for other people, because a lot of people would have either folded like a lawn chair, or they would have gone in and not wanted to have anything else to do with anybody else, or they would have done something terrible to themselves. I believe that the mistreatment that you went through while in there was from the people from the outside that had asked these guys to do what they did to you. As far as the people in the prison, I believe that it was all retribution, that they were very angry at you. But you know what? Oh, I wish we knew who they were, because I'm gonna tell you something. All you got to do is watch them publicly, and watch how our Father handles them. The universe, as you said, I believe in divine reciprocity. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe in. And I believe in that old thing, what they say, karma's a something. They say that karma's a something or whatever. I believe that. I believe that there's nothing that you can do. Anything that you put in the ground, you will definitely get it back out. And so congratulations on the new book. Congratulations on all of the awesome work that you're doing in all of the communities, especially in the community that you're in right now, especially in the Maryland, the Virginia, and all over, really. I want to thank you personally. Thank you so much. And I hope that when that book comes out, that you are the first person to come back over here and share it with us. Now, will you please tell the people where they can find you? Where can they reach out to you?
My website is Helping Ourselves to Transform. And should I give my number? It's on my website.
Anything that's public, you're welcome to give it, but I don't let you guys give anything that is not public. But yes.
My number is public. It's 202-674-6300.
Okay, 202. You said 674? 6,300. Okay, you guys got that? So if they know anybody that's going through some of these things, or that needs some of the services that you offer there on your website, most assuredly reach out to that number so that you all can get the ball rolling, because I'm sure that your testimony today is reaching the ears and hearts of several people that need your help. Dr. Carmen Johnson, y'all bless you. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. Love you guys. Appreciate you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Oh, wow. Wasn't that good? What a blessing that was to hear somebody's testimony, to come out and tell us exactly what she experienced, how she was able to overcome it, and then to still be as sharp as she is now, and now working to help other people. It's a dynamic thing, right? So what do we do when we know that there's bad going on around us? Because we hear people going through things, and we understand that when you even use the term whistleblower, sometimes it's turned around, and you end up being the person in deep water. Do we stop? No, we don't stop. We continue to forge ahead and to tell the truth and to do what we need to do to protect those in our communities and our households and just those around us. You guys, thank you so very much for being a part of our show today. As soon as we get the book, she's going to come back and share more information. Again, her name is Dr. Carmen Johnson, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. You guys be blessed.
To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping